The Senate will come to order. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that House File Number 4 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bill be made for special orders for immediate consideration. It is House File Number 4.
Members, the bill up for consideration is House File 4. Senator DRAHEIM.
Thank you, President Miller and members. House File 4 is the funding, the budget bill for housing. We received a target of $10 million. We put money towards workforce homeownership, manufactured home parks, the Challenge program, which is a program our communities use throughout the state for building mainly rental programs, and then homeowner assistance, and then local housing trust fund grants. And there's also a pilot program or a task force to start a shelter task force. In the bill, there is $100 million in housing infrastructure bonds, which we refer to as HIBs. And we have funded that quite heavily in home ownership. So a little over $18 million will be for single-family homes, and $15 million will be used towards manufactured home park for infrastructure. Also in this bill is a CRAN provision on window clips. And if you remember from a couple of years ago, we had a bill on the floor on that, and it'll save $800 to $1,000 per home for single-family homes on the first floor by not having to put in windows with window clips. People can still have the option to install them in their new homes or when they're replacing windows if they choose, but on the first floor you will not have to. Another provision in this bill, Senator Rude and Senator Johnson worked on manufactured home titling reform. And one of the goals is, of course, to get more forms of home ownership. And we feel manufactured or pre-engineered homes are one of the most affordable ways to become a homeowner. And we feel there needs to be some work done on that. And there is another state, I believe it's New Hampshire, that does have a state-run finance program for manufactured homes. And we are urging our agency to follow suit on that. And then another provision that we had came from the college kids on their leases and prorating that last month of lease. If you live in a college town, you know a lot of college rentals have the kids move out a week or two before the end of the month at the end of their lease. So we have in statute here where it will be based on a calendar year. And then the last thing, members, is the eviction moratorium off-ramp. And I know we've had a lot of discussion on that. You know, I'd like to thank the bipartisan working group that worked on it. I'd also like to thank my committee members. We had a great committee with some of the old guard, some of the senators that have been here a while, and some of the new blood. Senator Rosen, Senator Dames, Senator Rest, Senator Dietzick, Senator Port, and of course our Vice Chair, Senator Duckworth, who put a lot of work into this off-ramp. Want to thank him, and of course nonpartisan staff, Mr. Mueller, Mr. Stang, Priya, who normally doesn't cover housing, had to step in and help with this portion of the bill on the eviction off-ramp because there's quite a few pieces in that don't normally come to a housing committee. And then, of course, Joel, Andy, and Tom, our faithful staff for the committee. Thank you for your work on this. And that's it, Mr. President.
Further discussion on House File 4, Senator Dietzick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think this is truly a compromise bill. I'd like to thank the work group and the committee members for working hard on it. We had a lot of really good discussions, a lot of very thoughtful discussions on what to do. We didn't get a large amount. We got a $10 million target, which when you look at the need of housing across the state, I personally think is low and would have liked to have seen a higher number, but I do appreciate all the work of the members and the staff. We have some great staff. We wouldn't get this done without nonpartisan staff and then both the Senate Democrat and Republican staff, and so I'd like to thank them specifically for all their help. The Senate, going into the work group, the Senate had a goal of home ownership and increasing home ownership. And if you read the Star Tribune this morning, there is an article that talks about how Minnesota and the metro area have, I believe, the highest home ownership gap. So if you are a white family, you probably have a 70% chance that you own a home. If you are a family of color, it is much, much lower, and we need to close that gap. And the Senate goal was to help close that gap, and so they pushed hard on that, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate that they included money for and continued the money for Build Wealth, because a lot of families can afford to pay that monthly payment for the down payment, but they don't have the down payment money. So they can afford the monthly payment in their mortgage, but to get that down payment and then that closing cost assistance and to just get ready to buy a home, I think that is what Build Wealth does, and so I'm glad that that provision is still in the bill. There's also a lot of help in here for manufactured home owners and manufactured home parks. It is an affordable option for many, so I think that is good that it's in here. There's also a provision for shelter study and a shelter task force, and I think that is really helpful. I met with Senator Port's bill, and I appreciate her bringing it forward. We have a homelessness problem, and we need to address it. We put a lot of money into shelter, but there's a lot of people that won't go to shelter, and I think we need to know why they're not going to shelter and how we can help get them into a path. Because if you have stable housing, you have better education outcomes and you have better health outcomes, and so it is so important to have that stable housing. Think about it. You know, what are you going to do at the end of the day? You're going to go home. Well, if you don't have a home, that just changes your whole entire day. So I think having this shelter task force will help us kind of figure out how do we get people into stable homes. There's also dollars for the Challenge Grant Program, which is a flexible program that a lot of communities use to build homes, both rental and home ownership opportunities in their homes. And then as Senator DRAHEIM said, we have the eviction moratorium, and we had a lot of discussion on that. I've heard both from landlords and from tenants with some questions on that, so I just would like to clarify for a moment. There is a provision in the bill that talks about if you have a pending rental application, you cannot be evicted. And we think that is good because there's a lot of people who have maybe, had a job, lost their job, got a job, lost their job. They may not be working, they've lost income. They don't know if they qualify or not. So we want to encourage them to qualify. And so again, go to renthelpmn.org and apply, or call 211 and apply, because we want to keep people in their homes. And so the purpose of that provision is not to give people forever to not pay rent, but it is because there's truly some people that don't know. And so this is to help those people that truly don't know. We're encouraging them, go apply, because that will help. There's also some questions on here. There's a provision in there that the landlord should provide notice, a 15-day notice, to the tenant with the amount that they owe. And so I want to clarify that under the rescue plan program, getting money through Rent Help MN, you can get money for rent and late fees, utilities, and some other stuff. And so I encourage landlords to put in that total amount that is due, and I encourage applicants and tenants to also ask and look at either through community action partnerships, through the Commerce Department, or through Rent Help MN to also get money for utility payments, because we want to keep people in their home. I think that is the goal. I think that's the goal of our committee, is how can we best get good, adequate, affordable housing for everybody across the state. And again, thank you to staff and thank you to everybody on the committee. I think we had a good discussion. Thank you. And I would encourage a yes vote.
Further discussion on the bill. Senator Port.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take a moment also to thank Senator DRAHEIM and the rest of the committee. I think this was an incredible committee for a first-term member to really be able to dig in and learn a lot. I really enjoyed being on this committee, and I think we did good compromise work together to get the most that we could out of the $10 million target that we received. This bill is really vital to pass to make sure that we are protecting and supporting Minnesota families who've been hit hardest by the pandemic, and making sure that they are able to access the hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding that is available for rental assistance. So if you have been hurt by the pandemic, if you are having trouble paying your rent, like Senator Dietzig was saying, go to renthelpmn.org and apply for assistance. There's hundreds of millions of dollars available to help make families and landlords whole and make sure that folks are able to start recovering from this pandemic from a place of stability. We do not need Minnesotans to lose their homes when there is assistance available. So this is just a really vital bill for us to pass. I am really pleased with some of the work we did. That $2.8 million to the Challenge Fund does a lot of work for down payment assistance, particularly to families of color, to folks who have non-traditional mortgages and things like that. It's really an important tool for closing that disparity gap. The Shelter Task Force is something that I've worked really hard on. I'm really proud to be a part of it with Representative Keeler and Representative Howard to make sure we're bringing the right people to the table. I think that people often think about task force as sort of a place where a good idea goes to die, but I think in this case, the right people are willing to work together and they just needed a table. And so we are really providing the table to make sure those conversations happen, and I'm really pleased that that's moving forward. There is a lot of good in this bill. I encourage members to vote yes. And I do want to acknowledge that there's a lot of good done with, like we've been saying, a $10 million budget target. And in a moment when the federal government has sent states large amounts of money to recover and also build back something better than we had before the pandemic, housing is one of those areas where we could invest that money and make a huge, meaningful change. That one-time money can make those infrastructure changes, those investments to really make affordable housing a reality in communities across the state. And I encourage us as we move forward to really think about the most impactful ways we can spend that remaining money that we will be back here to debate and talk about, and really think about if we started every Minnesotan from a place of having a stable home, how much other investments that we make would fall into place. How many other things would reach farther because Minnesotans would have a stable home to go home to, a stable place to start their day, a stable connection to their communities. Housing is one of those places where if we make that investment, that one-time large investment, we really can change the future for Minnesotans. And I hope that we think about that as we move forward and figure out how to spend the rest of the federal dollars that are in front of us. But today we need to pass this bill. I encourage a yes vote. I want to thank, again, the committee and the staff. It's been an incredible learning experience, and I'm really excited to keep moving forward in this area. Thank you.
The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 4, a bill for an act relating to state government establishing a budget for the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, wondering if Senator Dietzig would yield for a question, and then I've got some questions for the author.
Senator Dietzig will yield. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator Dietzig, you noted about the rent help with tenants that are maybe behind on rent. What's your understanding to allow or to have a tenant be sure they apply for the assistance once they know about it? Or what is in place to help make that happen and not have a situation where maybe somebody doesn't do it They've been living rent-free for several months, and they just figure they're better off doing nothing. Can you just explain your understanding of what is in it to help keep the balanced, both sides, everybody moving forward in good faith, as opposed to somebody not moving ahead with an application in a good faith, expeditious manner? That's a concern that I've had raised to me.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Westrom, so one of the things that we was a long discussion was a notice. And part of the reason I pushed so hard for having some type of notice was if you talk to a lot of landlords, they have been giving notice to the tenants saying this is how much you owe. But at a certain point, I think the tenants are overwhelmed, they are confused, especially during this past year in the pandemic where they may have been all of a sudden having to deal with daycare issues, they lost their job, they're ignoring a whole bunch of stuff. And so part of the notice was now, hello, that's better. So part of my push for a notice was so that it's kind of like a splash of water in their face to say, hey, that notice says the eviction moratorium is ending. You need to apply for rent. There is assistance available, so please apply. So it is just one more encouraging push to tell them, contact your landlord, contact Rent Help and MN, contact 211 to get that help because we want to keep people in their home. And so it is a balance. I know I have also heard from landlords and tenants who say, some landlords are saying the tenants are ignoring them. Well, hopefully this will be a wake-up call to them. And some tenants are saying, like, landlords aren't responding, and hopefully this is a wake-up call because we have this federal money. We want to get it into the hands so that people can stay in their home.
Senator Westrom.
So, Mr. President, thank you, Senator Dietzig. Would the author of the bill yield?
Senator DRAHEIM will yield. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator DRAHEIM, a similar question, if you could help enlighten us, but also talk about what's in place to make sure everybody operates in good faith, and if they don't, after a week or two or a period of time, what option is there in place if somebody just doesn't want to fill out the paperwork, right or wrong? They just don't do it. What can be done in those situations? And then I have a follow-up, Mr. President.
Senator DRAHEIM.
Thank you, President Miller and Senator Westrom, for the question. In the bill, it's pretty explicit. They have to apply for help. If they don't apply, they can be evicted. So I hope that answers your question.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, thank you, Senator DRAHEIM. I just wanted that out on the record. Senator DRAHEIM, I know you've worked very hard, Senator Dietzig and others as well, coming up with language here. Mind you, because of COVID-19, this is a one-time temporary off-ramp, not a change ongoing. But Senator DRAHEIM, can you talk to us about the program that is Rent Help MN? I have heard multiple complaints from property owners that they are very slow, they aren't getting a response, they aren't getting payment. And so how does it help them if we've got a program or an agency or an administrator of a program that can't get the job done in a quick manner? What can you give us for comfort that things are going to change under this bill and going forward in the very near future?
He will continue to yield. Senator DRAHEIM.
Thank you, President Miller and Senator Westrom. You are absolutely correct. I have heard the same complaints from housing providers about the slow process. As of today, they have paid out $9.4 million in assistance out of $146 million in change. So members, that comes out to 6.4% payout in about 70 days. So we need to encourage the agency to do better. I guess, Senator Westrom, they were slow to get the site up and running, and they continue to be slow to get the checks out. I am grateful that we have the program. I am grateful that we have the resources, but I do wish the agency could be a little faster on paying out the money that we have available.
Senator Westrom, and then Senator Westrom, Senator Dietzig also has some comments to your question. But
Mr.
Senator
President,
Westrom.
I'd yield to Senator Dietzig if she would respond to that answer, and then I've got some follow-up.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with what Senator DRAHEIM said. The agency has had some challenges rolling out the money. One of the issues is more landlords than expected actually ask for money in checks, which takes longer. But they have, my understanding is the agency has shifted over more people and hired more people to help make this process go faster. They are working to get that money out as quickly as possible. I would also encourage landlords who have more than one tenant, so not your typical mom and pop, but some of the larger entities. I have heard from one larger housing group where the agency actually, they got assigned a person. So whenever they called for some questions or they needed some help, it wasn't, they had a person assigned to them. And so if you are a larger company and you haven't had a person assigned to you, I encourage you to ask for somebody, because in my conversation with that landlord, that helped immensely because they didn't have to start that new process and go through everything they already went through in the past, and so you had somebody assigned, and so I think that is helpful. And if you look at the amount of time it took us to, I know we all got calls, I got calls when we look back at March 2020 and we had the rush of unemployment. It took a while. We all got calls, but they really picked it up, and the unemployment checks got to people. And so I know I have faith, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they keep doing that, because we need to get those checks out as quickly as possible so that people can stay in their home. Thank you.
Senator Westrom.
So, Mr. President, thank you. And Senator Dietzig, if you'd yield for a follow-up question.
She will yield. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator Dietzig, are you referring to the current program as you explain it? And the reason I ask, the prior program, which I've had many more people say worked much better than what the current program is, so this new and improved is worse and slower from everything I've been hearing. But the prior program did seem to have local contacts, partners with the housing agency that property owners would be able to contact, first of all, because they were in their county or in a neighboring county, and a local administrator, many times the CAP organizations. But Senator Dietzig, were you referring to the old program or the new program where they can get a contact to deal with? Because I've been hearing the opposite. This is an online system. You can't get a hold of anybody. It seems like you're just dealing with cyberspace out there. And it's slow and pokey, and it's out of state. They contracted with somebody. And so there's no local partners like the last program, which had its flaws, but that looks head and shoulders above what this program is. So the new and improved is worse and slower. So I just want to clarify, which program are you referring to that they can get a local contact? Because if that's possible under this program, that information doesn't seem to be getting out. But if you could clarify that, Senator Dietzig, that would be helpful, and then I continue to have comments, Mr. President.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Westrom, it is the new program. I had a conversation with a landlord within the last 10 days, and they specifically told me, and others have told me, that they were given a name. I will get a hold of the agency. My understanding is there is a number that landlords can call. In this Rent Help MN program, they were, a note was just passed along, but now my understanding is that they can be given a contact, and so I think that helps. I also heard mixed results in the last round where some of those community partners worked really well and some didn't, and so I'm not at the agency, so I don't know what all went into choosing this, but I think that was part of the discussion, and I think they are still working with some of those partners to help reach those hard-to-reach tenants. So hopefully that answers your question.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, Senator Dietzig, thank you for that additional information. Members, Mr. President, this discussion is very important. One of my more recent contacts, a constituent from the Hancock area in my district, owns 5 houses, small property owner, if you will, but resembled all of the comments that I am discussing here. One of his comments was, you are going to lose housing providers and there is going to be less houses to rent because people are frustrated. They are going to just get out of the business. And that's what's going on under this agency that doesn't seem to get it right, doesn't seem to realize there's time to light a fire, and the time to light a fire was last week, not next month. And so, Mr. President, I hope people at the housing agency are listening, but there are a lot of ticked off people out there, and they should not sleep until they get this program fixed, working efficiently, and we're talking days and weeks, not months and years. There's tenants that need help. There's property owners that are losing their properties because of mortgages. There's utility bills. There's cities that aren't getting paid because this is so slow and pokey. They had a run in December that worked much better than what they now, I understand, contracted out of state, send the money out of state, eliminate the local housing providers, and frustrate the tenants and property owners in the process. That's the net result of what I've heard from my constituents, who are very frustrated, ready to get out of the business, sell off those 5 houses in the Stevens County area that otherwise have been good rental opportunities for families or persons that need them. That's what I read out of that constituent contact that I just reviewed last week. Many of you have had similar types of contacts. Small owners, people that try to do the right thing, but when they don't get paid rent, when they can't get a program to give assistance to tenants to move quickly, eventually there is a breaking point. And we are near or at that breaking point. And so, members, as we pass this, Governor, I hope you're listening. Put somebody in charge that can get this done if you can't get it fixed pronto. I know Senator DRAHEIM has worked frustratingly long on this, and either the message hasn't been getting to the housing agency and the commissioner, or they're turning a deaf ear to it. I don't know which. It seems like the latter, but it needs to change. If this is going to work, it's going to have to work as a partnership, and it's going to have to work with the people holding the money, moving quicker, faster, and get this program working. Because otherwise it's going to exacerbate the problem of housing and the rentals available, people leaving the market, people not wanting to build new units to rent out because the last year has not been good for them. That doesn't help tenants, it doesn't help property owners, and it doesn't help the opportunity to have enough supply to deal with the demand. And if any of you have checked the pulse in your districts, it's the same across the state. Housing is short. Properties for sale go very fast in this market, and it's a result of years and years of not having enough properties supply built because of regulations, high costs, and other things that frustrate the market, don't allow developers and don't allow people to build their own homes. And the situation we're in now is only making it worse. So, Commissioner of Housing and the Housing Agency, I hope you're listening today. And I hope the first call you make is to light a fire under whoever you've contracted with and say it's got to change, like by tomorrow, or pull the contract and get it back to people that can handle it quickly. So, Senator DRAHEIM, thanks for listening. I hope you light a fire under the agency every day until this is done, because it's not going to work for tenants, property owners, and it's going to short the supply of housing even more if we don't get this fixed right away. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill, Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it, and I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to touch on a couple of items related to housing as we discuss this bill. I work in the realm of home ownership in a professional capacity, but it's also very personal to me as well. I come from pretty humble means, have a diverse family, and I can tell you that one of the factors that sets apart many generations in my family is the fact that some of them, not all of them, became homeowners. And you can tell and you can see the impact it's had on certain family members and their respective generations if they were blessed to become a homeowner. And I think that's why having home ownership be such a priority in the Senate of both parties, which has been very refreshing, has been emphasized so significantly. And it's my understanding that this is the first year that housing has been a standalone committee. And I want to thank leadership. I want to thank Senators DRAHEIM and Dietzig for leading the charge on that and showing all of us in Minnesota just how important and how much of a priority ensuring Minnesotans and generations of Minnesotans have the opportunity to become homeowners and pull themselves up and pull their family members up. It's extremely important. And something that's got kind of lost and overshadowed by all this discussion regarding the eviction moratorium off-ramp is the housing issues that we have right now in Minnesota and across the country. A significant shortage in inventory, rapidly rising prices, and inflation in materials and labor. So while we may be passing this bill hopefully in the near future and achieving some success, we all have to know and understand that the looming issue still is housing affordability and how we as a state government ensure that we are making home ownership achievable for everyone across the state. I do also want to highlight the significance of what many property owners have had to endure over the last 15 or 16 months. I know right now we're passing the off-ramp. We've had many conversations about it, but it seems like sometimes we're forgetting just how much of an issue this has been for thousands of property owners across the state. Senator Westrom just touched on it very passionately. We've got people out there that have back rent owed to them in mind-boggling amounts of money. I heard firsthand from somebody that lives just a few doors down from me, they're owed $60,000 in back rent, and the tenant's already moved on, which unfortunately under the bill that we're proposing means that person likely is just simply out that money because a landlord cannot apply for assistance on behalf of a tenant who's already up and moved. Now, we here in the Senate, we introduced legislation from a bipartisan standpoint that said we should allow property owners to be able to apply for that federal assistance even if a tenant has moved on, because we think it's the right thing to do, and how else do you make these people whole? However, we couldn't get that in the final language because our counterparts in the House unfortunately wouldn't go forward with it, but they did commit to saying, hey, if there's some room for it in the future, we'll give it consideration. And I want you to understand why it's so important. I'll give you an example. Let's say a property owner owns a duplex. They're serving two families. And let's say one of those families has been paying their rent on time. They haven't had an issue, thankfully, and they've been very diligent about paying their rent. And unfortunately, the other tenant, maybe because it was caused by the pandemic, unfortunately couldn't make their payments. They stopped paying their rent. The landlord's been taking the hit, been doing that for months, and that tenant just up and moved. Well, now, unfortunately, the property owner, if they can't apply for assistance, is going to be left with a huge bill that they're still expected to pay toward their mortgage. And guess what? If that property owner is unable to satisfy those mortgage payments and ultimately becomes foreclosed upon, guess who else is left in the lurch? That other family on the other side of the duplex that has still been paying their rent, because they're going to be out as well if that property gets foreclosed upon. So that's something that I really suggest that we continue to look at here in Minnesota is how do we make everybody whole when it comes to what we asked property owners all across the state to endure. Heck, we didn't even ask them to endure it. We told them they had to. And last but not least, I do want to thank Senator DRAHEIM and the fellow committee members for, again, highlighting just how important home ownership is. We have a lot of work to do on it still, and we've got to take some aggressive measures across the state to help us positively impact the inventory issue that we're facing. So thank you, Mr. President.
Any final discussion on House File 4? Senator DRAHEIM.
Thank you, President Miller. Thanks for all the discussion, members. I've been a broken record on home ownership the last 5 years. I truly believe it is important to have a pathway to home ownership to get people out of poverty. It is cheaper to own a home than to pay rent, and we need to do more. There's a lot of reform that I worked really hard on and other members worked really hard on that isn't in this bill. We have a lot to do. We have billion-dollar multinational corporations coming in and gobbling up single-family homes in metro areas. We have the worst equity gap in the country. And I know you're sick of me saying that, but it's a fact. So as much as I want a green vote on this, I'm urging everybody to vote green on this. We have a lot to do. We're at mile 1 on a marathon, and hopefully all of you and the members in the other body will step it up next year and really look at some of the root causes that we're trying to get at in our committee and other discussions over the last 5 years. We have labor issues, and I'm not just talking about people getting paid every week to stay home and not work. If you try to find a contractor lately, it's very hard to get a contractor out, even to repair your house. But we have major labor issues coming up in the future because of lack of people interested in the trades. High-paying jobs. Lumber prices have kind of distracted housing cost issue as of late. On a wholesale level, lumber prices have come down. So hopefully we'll start seeing that in our local lumber yards. But please, members, pay attention. Pay attention to housing. And when you go home tonight, be grateful that you have a home. And hopefully it's a house, if that's your choice. We are fortunate. We are very fortunate in Minnesota. But vote green. Thank you.
We are on final passage of House File 4. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Any members not in the chamber, please come vote. I'll call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Ekin votes aye.
Ekin votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Hoffman votes aye.
Hoffman votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Kunish votes aye.
Kunish votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Putnam votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator French.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator French.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Members, we are under roll call vote. Please take your conversations outside the chamber. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes aye.
Howe votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Osmic votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rarick votes aye.
Rarick votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Utke votes aye.
Utke votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that House File Number 52 be taken from the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that an urgency be declared within the meaning of Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of Minnesota with respect to House File Number 52, and that the rules of the Senate be so far suspended as to give House File Number 52 its second and third reading and place it on final passage.
Members, just a reminder, a motion to suspend the rules takes 2/3 vote or 45 votes to prevail. On the Gazelka motion to suspend the rules and declare an emergency, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Secretary will give the bill its second reading.
House File Number 52.
Second reading. We are on House File 52. Senator Bach.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is the bonding technical corrections bill. Most of this resulted out of last year's bonding bill in October. There were a number of minor language problems. You remember it took about 7 months to actually get a bonding bill last year after we adjourned. And working remotely was a significant challenge to accomplishing that. I want to thank Senator Senjum and Senator Pappas for finally getting that over the finish line back in October. But there were some language problems with it. So in December, if you remember, we took up what we knew were some of the problem language in the bill, where MMB couldn't issue the bonds without a language change. And we actually passed that over to the House 67-0, acknowledging that we had some language problems in last year's bonding bill. And the House decided not to take it up. What the House did do after the first of the year then is they actually sent a letter out to all of the individuals who had money in that October bill and asked if there were any language changes that we needed for them to be able to get their projects done. And MMB has flagged a few other projects since then that needed some language changes so that bonds could be issued for projects. The bill's summary, members, is on your desk with all of the individual projects and what the changes are. And then I handed out one additional sheet that shows all of the members who have provisions in this bill. It's over 40 members. It's split absolutely bipartisanly, as it turns out, which tells me that Senator Senjum must have done a pretty good bipartisan bill back last October. Because we haven't been able to pass this, we've got about $158 million worth of transportation projects that are held up because this bill hasn't passed, and about $50 million of different water-related PFA type projects that are held up because of some technical provisions. So members, that really is what's in here. Appreciate your support. It's been a really tough go to finally get the House to agree to pass this revisions bill on its own. So the good news, members, is when this passes, we have an agreement with the Speaker that this will go straight to the Governor. So I appreciate your support. And I want to thank Senator Pappas for being a strong advocate of trying to get this revisions bill done this session and off to the Governor so that these projects that we all agreed last year we were going to do can actually move forward.
Further discussion on House File 52, Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Bach, for working so hard to get this, as you said, across the finish line. These are projects that we were all approved in October and are being held up because they needed minor language changes. And it's a really good idea. I personally wanted to get this done, as did Senator Senjum, back at special sessions in November, December, so that now it's 6 months later that the projects still have been held up. Excuse me. However, Senator Bach, I do have a couple questions for you if you would yield.
Senator Bach will yield. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bach, as we know, pretty much the only public spreadsheet that the public has seen has been what the governor proposed in terms of capital improvement. And we've had discussions, the bonding leads and the chairs, about doing some of those projects. And so are you seeing any possibility, this is mostly asset preservation, HEPA for the U, are you seeing any possibility of that yet happening in the next couple days?
Senator Bach.
Well, Mr. President, Senator Pappas, I still am hopeful. I sat, the Speaker 2 days ago went to Representative Erdahl and asked him to put a spreadsheet together that he thought that the Republicans in the House could support to get a larger bonding bill over the finish line. That has been done. Representative Erdahl has an outline of, and it's heavy in asset preservation, that I think we all could support. He has presented that this morning to Minority Leader Doubt, and just before I came on the floor, he asked me to talk with Minority Leader Doubt and see if we could get his agreement on that. If we can get his agreement on that, he then will bring it to the Speaker. I'm still hopeful. The original target that the Capital Investment Committee was given by the leaders of the House and the Senate on May 17th, when the targets were released, was $500 million. So what has happened since then is the broadband was taken out and moved into another bill. That was $70 million. And then the leaders agreed to spend $30 million on Rondo and some other competitive grants at DEED. So that's $30 million. So that actually was adopted into the tax bill last night by amendment in Ways and Means. So what's left is $400 million, and that is what the minority leader in the House is considering. And I'm still hopeful. I think the Speaker in the House wants to do a bill. At least that's what she's personally told me. So I'm still hopeful here tomorrow or Wednesday we'll be able to get a bonding bill that takes care of some of the really state agency and asset preservation and HEPA things over the finish line.
Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, thank you, Senator Bach. I think since a lot of these negotiations are not being done in public, I think it's very helpful for that explanation. of that there's still work going on to address these kind of important HEPA and asset preservation projects that often don't get paid enough attention to because there's a lot of competition around the state from local government and now from the nonprofit community. But we still have a responsibility to take care of our things that the state needs to take care of that are state buildings. Plus, just in the governor's proposal, and I know we've considered those as well in other spreadsheets, asset preservations for the Department of Natural Resources, more asset preservation for the Minnesota Zoo, for the Department of Administration, plus capital security upgrades, asset preservation for the Amateur Sports Commission, still more things for the Department of Transportation with local roads and bridges, safe routes to school, port development, the Met Council inflow and infiltration grant program, asset preservation for the Department of Human Services, including St. Peter Phase 2, Veterans Affairs, Department of Corrections, Public Facilities Authority, as you mentioned, all this wastewater and point source implementation grants, public housing, rehabilitation, the Historical Society. So there's still plenty of need out there that we need to address, and so I'm just hoping that the minority leader and the other body will look at that and see there's no reason, there's nothing controversial about any of these grants. They're just things that need to get done. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill, Senator Jasinski, followed by Senator Herr. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Pappas, thank you for bringing up those couple of points. One also that I think you missed on that list is BDPI. I've voiced that to Senator Bach as well. I think that's a very important program. From what I hear from DEED, the BDPI, or Business Development Public Infrastructure Fund, is starting to get low, and that's very valuable to a lot of our cities across Minnesota. Very important for economic development across our state. So I would also hope that the BDPI program could be included in any possible additional bonding bill we would see this year. So thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Bach.
Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I could have waited till third reading to make this remarks, but I'm going to run out to join the Posse press conference on public safety reform. But I appreciate Senator Sandy Pappas and Senator Bach for working on this modification. I look at the list; it has pretty much everybody's project in their district, and I can identify two that I most closely related to, and also know much in depth about the projects. Especially the Wonkan TP Center or the Interpreter Center at the Bruce Wintle Natural Sanctuary, and it's a hidden gem and sacred gem in the east side St. Paul, and I can't wait to see the completion of that project so that it can make east side a destination point for education and knowledge of natural resource, and also get our students and young people tap into a culture that's been left behind or overlooked. I've been educated in some point that the Wonkan TP area are the umbilical cord of the Lakota people, and I felt blessed that I represent that area. The other part is Section 16 about the Southeast Asian language job training facility, and I know that project has been long waiting to get done, and I'm thank you that there's a way going forward. This project is actually going to help those who are underserved, underrepresented, and also with language barriers. Senator DRAHEIM did mention earlier about the shortage of labor, and the facility will train people to become mechanic on fixing bus or other vehicle, and as well as training them to be bus driver and other skill training. So I'm glad that these two are in the bill. I'm slightly disappointed that the equity package, 24 million, are not, in this, are not together with this, are not in the whole, and then the whole bonding bill is still in its own complexity. I'm slightly disappointed, and I know that there may be a way in a tax bill or other venue, but we only have a short period of time left, and I hope that this body or the other bodies or the administration do not use equity as a bouncing ball, passing back and forth, and by the time when this session is over, we missed out on the equity part. And so I just want to stress that out to people, that equity is not a game, it's matter to people's life, and also creating job, especially with the bonding investment to our state. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 52, a bill for an act relating to capital investment amending prior appropriations for capital improvement projects.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Senator Nelson, followed by Senator Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this bill, and I want to thank Senator Bach and the many authors who have worked on this very structured bonding bill. Many technical corrections, things that we had passed in our previous session, and we're glad to get those technical corrections fixed so these important projects can continue. And what I notice is the very important infrastructure, roads, bridges, water infrastructure, clean water, and I particularly want to call out a life-saving piece in this bill, and that is Highway 14 and County Road 104. That has been an intersection that in Olmsted County that is just marked with great tragedy and a truly unsafe intersection, actually right on the border there of the counties. And so I am very thankful that we will see that project go forward. We know that it will save lives. So thank you, Senator Bach and members. Look forward to a strong green vote.
Senator Curran, followed by Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the bill as well. And the technical corrections, as everyone has covered, are vital to everybody across the state. And I'd like to thank Senator Bach and Senator Pappas for bringing forward the one issue that is not a technical correction, and that's the transference of a Department of Human Resources or Department of Human Services facility in the city of Iceni, or the county of Iceni, the city of Cambridge. For those of you who don't know it, that's the origin of the Jensen lawsuit. And if you're familiar with their disability services, that facility is a 48-bed facility, which was had some history, which really changed our healthcare and group home services. And what it will do then is they're going to repurpose it in for veterans. So it's a great win. It takes a state facility off the rolls, puts it into the county, and we're going to convert it into veterans housing. So it's a great use, and it's going to go to great purpose. So thank you, everyone, and vote green.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just very, very briefly want to again thank, as I have privately, Senator Bach, Senator Pappas. Actually, I'll reach over to the House as well, saying thank Representative Fu Lee for getting this bill over to us. Very, very important bill. A lot of technical corrections. They've grown a little bit since last September, when I think we passed some of these technical corrections off the floor, I believe unanimously, but nonetheless all important. Within the bonding sphere, time is money. The longer you delay these projects, the more they cost, even by the month. So getting this bill off the floor here today and getting it to the governor, getting it signed, very, very important, not only from the standpoint of the project itself, but the cost of those projects and what the allocated money will buy. So again, thanks to both of you. Appreciate your efforts, and onward.
Any final discussion on the bill? Senator Bach.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Of course, I want to thank the Speaker for breaking this loose and getting this done, and to Representative Lee, who was willing to pass this bill before we went home. But you know, none of this would have been possible. We get to cast the green vote and get some things done for our communities, but none of this would have been possible but for the staff that work for the Senate. both the fiscal and council, and to my committee administrator, Susie. Thank you for all your work on this. There's been enough renditions of this that we're keeping the paper mills working in northern Minnesota. I just want to thank everybody sincerely. There's just a lot of good stuff in here, and if you can believe it, it doesn't cost anything. And we don't do a lot of really good stuff often that doesn't cost money. So this is a very good bill, and a lot of people work very hard on it. So I want to thank everybody.
Members, House File 52 is considered a bonding bill, so it will require a 3/5 majority or 41 votes to prevail. Seeing no further discussion on the bill, the Secretary will take the roll. Any members not in the chamber, please come vote. I'll call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Hoffman votes aye.
Hoffman votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Kunish votes aye.
Kunish votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Putnam votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Wicklund votes aye.
Wicklund votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes aye.
Howe votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Osmick votes aye.
Osmick votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rarick votes aye.
Rarick votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Utke votes aye.
Utke votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and is title agreed to. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to recess to the call of the President. It will only be to do what we call the skeleton crew. Right now, what I see as the plan for tomorrow is that if the Jobs Conference Committee can work out their details, we take that bill back. And then if the House can pass the public safety bill, we'll do that one as well. That would then all that would remain is taxes, education, and state government. That's typically what happens in the end. And so we just have to pay attention. The public safety bill has probably been the most difficult bill to do this session. Just trying to navigate through that. We want to make sure that the police have the resources they need. There's been desire for reforms that I think, frankly, quite a few have been adopted. But it's a bill that the Speaker and the Democrat-controlled House would like to pass with their members, and it's a bill that the Republican-controlled Senate would like to pass with our members. And that, frankly, members, has been most difficult on this bill. but it's been agreed to at the leadership level, and now we'll just see how we navigate through the rest of that. So pay attention to that, but for today, just paperwork from here on out.
Without objection, Senator Eichhorn will be excused from today's session from 11:10 a.m. to 12:05 p.m. Announcements. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Finance Committee will be meeting approximately 1 o'clock in this Capitol, room 123.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I just wanted to rise and say thank you. I was on a pre-planned family trip last Saturday when you took up the Human Services bill. It's kind of novel to work 5.5 months on a bill and not be here to present it. I want to thank Senator Hoffman for his able work on the component of this bill and the support of this body for voting 30 Republicans and 30 Democrats in favor. We let that out strong on the way out. It really was a bill for the ages. Will make a tremendous bit of difference to those who we care so much about. And I just want to give a special shout out to our Senate staff. Mr. President, we have amazing staff. The House staff, where I used to live, has pretty good staff, but the Senate staff just rose above and beyond. And I'm not going to name their names, but we have a lot to be proud of. And the passage of this bill, the way it worked out, I'm a proud member of the Senate as we can stand together and care about people who need special help. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further announcements. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to note that we just made history here about 5 minutes ago, as far as I'm aware, and that is that, albeit a technical corrections bill, it is still a bonding bill, and it garnered 67 votes. So to Senator Bach, our new bonding chair, I think you set a record, Senator Bach, so congratulations for that, and maybe a good sign for things to come. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Senator Gazelka renews his motion that the Senate recess to the call of the President. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails. The Senate is in recess.